Podcast. Today's guest, the Bard of Ely, Steve Andrews. Hey, Steve.
Hi, Brian. Thank you for having me on your podcast today.
You're most welcome. And Steve, you guys gonna have minimal input from me because we have a lot of material to cover. So just gonna pretty much let you go on autopilot and stuff if you don't mind. Take it away, Steve.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, today, for everybody like viewing this, listening, I wanted to talk about Indigenous people. Now, I'm not an Indigenous person, okay? But the reason that I wanted to talk about them is I feel that the voice of the Indigenous people is not getting heard. If you look at the media, you're going to see what politicians have got to say, what celebrities have got to say, and all this stuff, okay? And most of us also know that all of this is being run really by the billionaires, by the oligarchs that fund everything. People like Bill Gates, right? So they pay for what's going in the media anyway. The Indigenous people are getting left out, okay? Now, another reason I wanted to talk about the Indigenous people is this, it's important. Not most, all, I'll go as far as that, all Indigenous people all over the planet that have existed and that still exist know how to live in balance with where they are. Now, I'm not saying that they know how to live in balance with somewhere else where they don't live, maybe like, thousands of miles away or something, but they know how to live where they are and how not to mess up where they are, okay? They know what plants you can eat. They know what fish and animals you can catch. They know what the seasons are like. They know how to grow things. They know how to find things. They know what plants are poisonous and what you don't eat. They know all these important things about how to live where they are. They know how to take shelter. They know how to keep warm if it's really cold, like in an Arctic area, for example. They have like a perfect system for living where they are, and they are not, and the not is important, they are not endangering life for the rest of the planet, and they are not endangering life where they are. And this is important, because if they were endangering the life where they were, they couldn't survive. They need the animals and the plants and whatever is there because they feed on them or they make clothes from them or whatever. And so they are not messing up the balance of where they live and the planet. Now, if we look at the rest of us, the civilized people, okay, the technological people, we are messing up the planet. We're messing up the planet really badly. And we've got like the climate crisis, climate change, and okay, there are some people that still don't believe that, but I don't know where that's at really, because I think it's pretty obvious that we've got severe weather all over the planet with droughts and fires and flooding and crazy winds, and all this is going on. And this is, as far as I'm concerned, part of the results of messing up the balance of the planet and not respecting natural law. And I say natural law because people who are Indigenous understand natural law. They have to, otherwise they wouldn't survive. They know what you can do, what you can't do, right? Mm-hmm. And what I'm trying to say here is that it's important that people in general, all around the world, not the Indigenous people are okay. Well, actually, a lot of them are not okay now because our civilization has messed up their ways of life. A lot of them have become dependent on us. So they may need to use shops now, or they may need to use cars to drive to shops and all this civilized stuff. But there are Indigenous people maybe living in a forest somewhere that they don't have any of this and they don't want it. They're saying basically, look, we're okay living the way we live. We don't want your civilization, thank you, we're all right. And I shall talk about some people specifically, like later, these people called the Jarowa. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that the rest of us civilized people, do need to know what the Indigenous people can tell us, mm-hmm. what their what their concerns are, and a lot of them are very concerned because their whole ways of life are being, basically ruined as we are going about ruining the planet. And I know this is pretty heavy duty stuff to be talking about, but another thing, for me is I think, well, I have to talk about this. I feel motivated to be talking about the stuff that people maybe don't want to hear about. And when I say like I'm not an indigenous person, which I'm not, I understand how an indigenous person thinks. And the reason that I'm like that is because I've been a naturalist all my life. I'm 72 now, okay? But when I was a little boy, when I was 3 or 4, okay, I learned about nature. I loved nature. I connected with nature. And my connection has remained with me all the way through. And what I'm saying I haven't said is that indigenous people have their connection with nature. Yeah, this is most important. Because they depend on nature and they also realize they are part of nature. So, for example, there are indigenous people from America that think of the other creatures, the other animals, as their relatives. They use that word, whatever in their language, they're relatives. And this makes sense because we are animals, yeah, and this gets forgotten as well. Civilized people don't think of we are animals. They think, oh, we are human beings, or we can do what we like. Oh, we've got amazing technology. Oh, look at this, look at that, and they lose sight of that we are actually animals. We are very closely related to the great apes. Okay, so we are great apes that have developed technology to a fantastic degree. We have absolutely amazing technology, but we're still underneath all that biped apes. We walk on 2 feet, we got arms and legs and heads, and we got fur, and we're basically just, we're primates, and we shouldn't forget that. So we're animals, okay? And we are not superior to the other animals. We are part of nature as all the other animals and all the other plants and all the trees and the fishes and the birds, and they're all parts of nature as well. We're all part of the planet Earth.
And one moment, Steve. I was thinking when you said you're not indigenous, you're indigenous to Earth. So that's probably where you get your love from. Another thing, I want to talk about. I know you're getting there. I want to talk about the Kogi people, because I remember one of the videos that I was checking out for research that you supplied me with. You mentioned how they have to deal with society now, and it was a part in there that was kind of uncomfortable for me, and probably for them too, because they had to get some kind of ID. They had to board a plane, go through stores, and you said now they have to interact with society when before, they didn't have to. So now I can see how maybe there's some kind of dependence is starting or something. I don't know. But I know you were concerned about that. Before they were self-sufficient, but now because of the encroachment and things little brother, as you call him, was doing, now they seem like they may have to be dependent on little brother for some things. And I hope I didn't throw you off too much with that, but I just wanted to add that.
Not at all, Brian. Thank you for bringing the Kogi into this, because I was going to be talking about the Kogi anyway, and the Kogi are in my book, which is this book here. And the Kogi had a massive influence on me. And I am going to, I'll start talking about this. And thank you for, bringing those particular Kogi in. I know what you're talking about. You're talking about the 3 Kogi interviewed in Paris in 2023. And yes, indeed, they had to wear shoes. They don't wear shoes where they live. They had to get on a plane. They don't get on plane. They don't understand all this stuff. So, and one of them was Anna Maria. She was 13 in 2023. And I remember she was actually asked, would she like to come and live in Paris? And she said, no, she wanted to go back home to the mountain where she lives. And she also said that she thinks that we don't need any more technology. She actually said, and I think her father said as well, that all the technology that we civilized people pride ourselves with and use It is all taken from the earth, all of it. All of it is made with materials which we're taking out of the planet. And in their system, they believe that the earth is their mother. They believe that everything here was created by the mother, and they believe that their mother has feelings like we do. So they say the mother is very sad because her body is being basically ripped apart and drilled into, and she's sad. And she also sees like her creations, like us, how we are acting. And it doesn't, if you can put yourself in the place of a mother who has created this most amazing world with all these animals and all the plants and all the people, and then sees what is happening to it. And I'm coming to actually a part of the Kogi creation story. This is important. And why they call, you said that the little brother, the younger brother, they believe that they were created before the rest of us. The rest of us, they call the younger brother. And they believe that there was a son of the mother who they call Sarankwe, a lord of creation. And he made us, the younger brother. And everything was fine until the younger brother was created. And in their words, the younger brother started ripping at the earth, and he didn't understand, and he wouldn't listen. And so what was decided was that they would send the younger brother away across the ocean, far away. And they gave the younger brother knowledge and machines. Now I question, I think, well, why did Sarankwe give the younger brother knowledge and machines? Because now it is the machines that's causing all the problems. And anyway, what happened after all that is the Kogi were, and I haven't explained, they live on a mountain, the Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta in Colombia. They believe that they are the guardians of the planet, and they believe that where they live is the heart of the whole planet, the heart of the world, okay? They believe that they were taught how to care for the planet, how to care for all living things, and what signs to look out for if you want to know how something is. They also, this is important as well, this is also amazing. The Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta has examples of all microclimates on the planet. And so there are like desert areas, and there are rainforests, and there are high mountain tundra. And so basically, if you wanted to understand an ecosystem, you can understand the ecosystems there by going from one to another. And the people that are, if you like, the leaders, they're like shamanic leaders. They call them the mamos or the mamas, and they are regarded as enlightened ones. Okay, they know all about all of this stuff. They know if something is going wrong somewhere.
Like Steve, for instance, when they showed the aerial view, I believe of the mountainsides, I think it's supposed to be lakes and snow caps or something like that, and that was gone.
Yes, completely. That is exactly. Well, actually, I will read a little bit from my book now, because this was a moment. Oh, and by the way, this is 1990. A documentary was made called "From the Heart of the World: The Elder Brothers Warning." Okay, and I mention all that in this book, and by the way, my book is called "Saving Mother Ocean." There we are, Saving Mother Ocean. Okay, and why I called it that is because I regard the ocean as the mother, and also in the Kogi belief system, they believe that in the beginning was an ocean. Okay, so. The ocean, if you ask scientists today will say, yes, life originated in the ancient oceans, the primordial oceans, right? So the ocean is the mother. And people talk about the Mother Earth and Mother Nature, and this is fine because it is Mother Nature, it is Mother Earth, but it's also Mother Ocean. So that's why I called this book that. But what you were just talking about then, Brian,
Oh yeah, they also mentioned that water was the blood of the earth.
yes, completely. And this is coming into what I'm about to actually read from my book. And the director of the film was Alan Herrera. And so I say, in the film, Herrera is shown high on the mountain in a tundra area where vegetation suited to this habitat should be growing. But instead, what was there crumbled to dust when touched. This scene is shown before the documentary ends, and the director makes the point of telling viewers that this situation on the summit is what finally made the Mamas decide to talk to us. That documentary made a very big impact on me when I saw it back in 1990. Then, back in the winter of 2012, when I was living in Tenerife, I went through an experience that was so similar to what had worried the Kogi so much. It was in January, and I had gone up on Mount Teide, the highest mountain in Spain, to show a friend who was visiting the island what it was like up there. I was expecting the highland vegetation to be growing, as it usually does in winter, but what was left of the low-growing scrubland bushes was dead or dying. Much of what I went to touch crumbled to dust in my hands. Where there should have been vibrant greenery, there was the brown color of dead vegetation in a barren-looking landscape. I knew that this vegetation depends on the autumn and winter rains and the snowfall. There had been very little, if any. My mind flashed back to that scene of Herrera on the Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta. The island was experiencing a winter drought as a result of climate change. It was having devastating effects, but no one else seemed to be concerned. Tourists were wandering about on the mountains, smiling and taking photos. Can't they see the devastation in front of them, I wondered to myself. I was working in the media at the time, writing for newspapers there. The people I knew told me it'll all be okay. The rains will come soon, but they were wrong. And the Tenerife farmers had a really terrible year with crop failure that year. I knew that what the Kogi mamas were talking about was a reality, and it has been a motivator for me to take action. So.
Yeah, they had also mentioned that we only see a small part of the universe. Now, I know they were talking about, the cosmos, but what you were just saying, people are looking, but they're not seeing. They're not seeing the devastation. So that's another way we see a small part of what's going on.
Yeah, sure. Like what I just actually said, the tourists up on Mount Teide were more concerned with themselves, I think, than the actual where they were. So they're taking selfies, maybe, or they're taking a picture of the mountain so they can say to other people, maybe on social media, look at me, I was up on Mount Teide, look at this fantastic landscape. But in doing all that, they are missing looking at the actual vegetation, which was dead.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like a Kogi mama would look at that vegetation and say, hey, it shouldn't be like that. We should have had snow up here. We need water. The plants are dying.
Mm-hmm.
And what the Kogi say, actually, in the film, From the Heart of the World, they talk about if there isn't any water, everything will die.
Right.
And they say that the water is coming from the mountain, which is right, because the snow falls on the mountain, and the rivers start on the mountain, and the rivers make their way down, and then the rivers eventually go to the sea. And so all of the stuff on the way down, the forests and the plants grow from the water which is coming down, and also clouds come to the mountain. When I lived on Tenerife, I used to see this again for myself. Like on Tenerife, you have cloud forests. You have clouds which form all around Mount Teide. And you can go in the cloud forest, it's wet. And there's all plants and trees growing there. And the mountain is attracting the clouds. And so the water. So I see for myself that what the Kogi mamas are talking about is real. Yeah, we need the water. We need the water attracted to the mountain. We need the water coming down from the mountain in the rivers. And the water goes to the sea, and the water also feeds and nourishes all the life on the way down. And it's not just the trees and the plants, because then all the other animals depend on the trees and the plants. Some eat them, some nest in them, all the different things that life does. So, but basically life needs water. If we haven't got any water, we're in a mess.
Right. Steve, I like when I'm sorry, Steve, I like when they had pointed out some type of industry that, but they said the younger brother erected there would just messed up the circle of life, so to speak. It's like they put their industry, I don't know what kind of plant that was, not plant, but kind of manufacturing facility, whatever it was that they placed there. It kind of ruined the circle of life, so to speak. It upset the balance. That's what I'm trying to say.
Oh, yeah, yeah, right. What has actually happened there? And
Hmm.
very briefly, I'll just tell you that what
Uh-huh.
happened with Kogi long ago was that after the younger brother had gone away, as I've already gone through that, right, the
Hmm.
Kogi were living in peace on the mountain. But then the Spanish arrived there in ships.
Hmm.
They brought the Catholic religion, they brought guns, they brought the, we have the right to be here in God's name. You people are primitive people, and all of that nonsense.
Hmm.
And the Kogi's way of life was disrupted completely, and all they could do to save themselves was to clear off up the mountains. And that's where they have remained ever since. They
Hmm.
didn't want anything to do with the younger brother because the younger
Hmm.
brother causes problems, but they could
Right.
see the younger brother down on the coast. The younger brother had made like cities down on the coast and
Hmm.
roads and plowing up the land and all this. So they thought, if we live up here in the mountains, we're okay, and which they were. But as they say, the Spanish invaded, and the Spanish brought civilization, religions, cities, roads,
Hmm.
industry, all of this.
Hmm.
Um, and all of this actually brings me to something I wanted to talk about, most important. I've talked about
Hmm.
the Kogi indigenous people, Ishmael. And this is a book by Daniel Quinn, the late Daniel Quinn. It is the first in a trilogy,
Hmm.
two more, My
Hmm.
Ishmael
Nice, man. Hmm.
and The Story of Being, all by Daniel Quinn.
Hmm.
But the reason I want to talk about them is because they were like an aha moment for me. I read Ishmael and I was like, wow, okay, now I understand. Because for years I've been trying to work out like what's going on? Why are we in such a mess? Why is everything so crazy? What's wrong with people? Why are we doing this? And
Hmm.
I never really understood it. And I read Ishmael and I said, okay, now I get it. Ishmael, by the way, is a gorilla. And so you have to get used to that. You're being taught by a gorilla in the book, but never mind, that makes it interesting. But basically, what Ishmael is teaching is that there were two lots of people. There was, like, he divides it into what they call the levers. The levers are indigenous people, tribal people. Some of them were herders, some of them were hunter-gatherers, some of them were small-scale farmers, some of them were a mixture of this, and they were living in balance. And there were actually millions of these on the planet, and there still are. And then there were people who were the civilized people. There was what was called the dawn of civilization. It happened about 8,000 years ago. And from the dawn of civilization, people started to build cities. They started to do mass farming, which Quinn calls totalitarian agriculture. The reason he calls it that is because modern farming, as such, regards any other species of life that can in any way cause a bad problem for the crop or the farming, whatever it is. Get
Hmm.
rid of them, kill them. And we see this all the time. So basically,
Hmm.
whether it's like fish farms or crop farms, whatever it is, modern humans will kill and eliminate anything that can be seen,
Yeah.
as a potential rival.
Label as a pest. Yeah.
Anyway, so these people they called the takers. They had like emperors, they had kings. Today we still have we have emperors and kings, and we have prime ministers and presidents, and we have all
Hmm.
all these people who are the leaders who run the world. But the takers people also, this is important as well. The leaders people stayed where they were. They knew how to live where they were, and that's fine. The takers people said, oh no, we need to colonize wherever we can find. Send out a party of exploring men, send out an army. And if you find any people there, convert them into the religion that we're taking them. Or if they don't want to do that, get rid of them. Or make
Hmm.
slaves out of them. Do any of these things.
Hmm.
And so this was the beginnings of the empires, of which there are many, and I'm sure you can think of some, the Roman Empire and the Greek Empire, and there's been all these, and then we
British
had
Empire.
the British Empire and the British Empire. They went to Africa and all the other places they went. And then we had all the other European organizations. We had like the Spanish and the Portuguese and the French. Basically, most of the European nations went and sent parties to invade other parts of the world.
Now, one moment, please, Steve, before you continue. How is your time today? Because we're down to about 7 minutes, about 7 minutes, and we have a lot of material to cover. Is it possible that you can go on an extended one?
Yeah, I can.
Your schedule permitted?
Yeah,
Because I was thinking we need to start calling you the busiest man in showbiz because you do so many things, interviews, performances and stuff. Sure you can spare the time.
I can, yes, and thank you for letting me have some more time because I just realized I got some more important stuff I wanted to talk about. But I've just forgotten where I was now. But yeah, Brian, can you mind what was I talking about before we went into the extended time?
Oh God, I'm sorry. We were talking about I know remember we were talking about looking at the mountains and seeing the changes that went there. Hopefully people recognize the changes, but the vacationers didn't. Trying to get you on track. And then right after there, I'm trying to remember exactly. It's not gonna come to me.
All right,
Um, but matter of fact, I made sure I edit that part out. We got about 6 minutes right now.
all right.
Um, and now I got some things here. Like one thing I know I wanted, and maybe this jog your memory somehow. I was thinking about the golden thread that the Kogi were going around. That was amazing. I never heard these people. And what I saw was just simply amazing that they would seem like miles and miles of thread that they would actually go across the countryside with. I mean, that was fascinating. I don't know if you want to talk about that now. And the coca leaves, the things they did, they're very interesting people. Yeah, it's so much to go over, so I'm sorry if I threw you off any, but we still got about 5 minutes right now if you want to talk, and then we can do another session. Or
Yeah,
we can stop this session now and start another fresh one in about 9 minutes.
okay, that sounds fine, Brian. I'll try and answer, the points you just brought up.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, the coca leaf. Yeah, the Kogi men, they chew the coca leaf, and the point that it's made in from the heart of the world is that they are not using cocaine as such. They do not. They basically use it as a stimulant, and they stay awake for days. They have like really long meetings in which they discuss really important stuff, and they they have what they have a gourd which they have like lime on, which they get from seashells, and the men, they they they're telling their thoughts onto it, okay, and that is part of their like cultural tradition which they use. But actually, what I'm just thinking about, all of this is explained in great detail and shown in From the Heart of the World. And as you know, From the Heart of the World is available online. If you Google From the Heart of the World, the Elder Brothers Warning, okay, Kogi, you can find it online. And I really recommend, I've been recommending this for years, as
Yes.
many people watch this as possible, because you can hear, not from me, you can hear directly from what the Kogi mamas have got to say. So that's really important. And what was the second thing you were asking?
The golden thread. That seems important. The looming, the ladies function where they make thread, and then the guys where they have the coca leaf thing, and it's all fascinating.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The film that the Golden Thread is in is called Aluna, and I think maybe this is more important than actually explain. Aluna was made as a second documentary about the Kogi, because the Kogi decided that the younger brother, even though this was broadcast by the BBC, had not listened, did not understand, and the world had got in even more of a mess. than it was when they spoke out. So they made a second film, and they thought that maybe instead of just talking to the younger brother, because the younger brother, for whatever reason, doesn't seem to get it, if we make a film showing the younger brother, like in pictures, so they can see what we're doing and all of this will reach more people. So they wanted to make the second film, Aluna. Now, I don't know whether Aluna has been any more successful than the first film in getting the people of the world, but I'm just thinking, like, right now, this is what I started with trying to say. The indigenous people are not getting heard by the masses of the world, you know? In fact, if you probably you went out the street and said, excuse me, but to the first person you met, do you know anything about the Kogi people from Colombia? They might just want to blank you. The what? Most people don't know anything about any of this. And it's not the fault of the Kogi, because they've made the documentary. They spoke to Aluna the Movie. They thought this was really important for them because they saw what was happening on the mountain. They wanted to tell us, the younger brother, hey, something serious is going on here. You need to do something about it. You need to change, because this is really bad and the world could end, and they were trying to say that. But anyway, they made the second film called Aluna. And again, if you Google Aluna, A-L-U-N-A, and Kogi, you should find this. You find the film, you find out all about it.
Hey, Steve, when we come back after our break, what are some things people can look forward to you telling us about?
I'm going to be talking about the Jarowair people. The Jarowair people are believed to have migrated from Africa to where they live in the Andaman Islands 60,000 years ago. And I'm just coming back very quickly to the Daniel Quinn books. Daniel Quinn was talking about the Great Forgetting. And what he meant by that was we're all taught about what happened after the dawn of civilization, but we don't hear about all the millions of people that were living before it. And the Jarowair are some of those people. And they live in jungles in the Andaman Islands. They were quite happy there. They've been there a long time. Since the civilized people went, they've driven a road through the jungle. Anyway, I should be talking about them. And I think I got some more stuff to talk about as well. So.
Oh, lots of it, yeah. Especially, I don't know if the people you just mentioned is the one that told us about the First World War. And I think they were saying that's when the Spanish came over.
Fine. This is
when we come back, we got less than a minute and stuff. Hey, everybody, we're going to take a break and stuff. We're going to be right back and stuff for more of Steve Andrews.
Thank you, Brian.
All right. Okay, it stopped. And welcome back. All right. So where did we leave off, Steve? What are we talking about? Or we just want to take it off from somewhere else?
Yeah, it's good to be back, Brian. And I think we left off. I was talking about the Jarowair people, and I was going to say a bit more about them. So I'll do so now. I'll say a bit more about the Jarowair people. The Jarowair people live in the Andaman Islands, which are off the coast of India, and it is believed that they migrated there something like 50 to 60,000 years ago. So they've been there like a very long time. And the reason I thought of them, and I wanted to talk about them anyway, was because they would be like a wonderful example of what Daniel Quinn is calling leavers people. These are people that, were here before civilization, don't need civilization, were doing just fine where they were, where they live, and they are hunter-gatherers, and they've got everything they need there. Or they did have. I say that they did have because what has actually happened is that a road has been driven through the jungle where they live. Tourists have been going there. people have been trying to introduce them to things like alcohol and cigarettes, and men with guns have gone there, not to shoot them this time, but to shoot, the wildlife. So like the Jarowair people were hunting like wild boar, I think, and a lot of the wild boar are being killed by the hunters with the guns, and so that was causing them problems. They're hunting deer now, I think, and basically there's somewhere like there were like, if you Google, you find out like loads and loads about the Jarowair people, but there was one documentary I watched, and it was saying that the Jarowair had basically said, we don't want anything from the outside world.
Right.
We're quite happy here, in the forest and what we've got here, and we've been living here a long time, and we're all right. We don't want anything that you can bring us from the outside world. But the problem is that the outside world is never happy with this. The outside world always wants to bring something else. It wants to bring education, wants to bring religion, it wants to bring technology, all these things. And to bring all this, it must make roads, and it must arrive there in cars and in planes and all the rest of it. And so people who want to live like a peaceful way of life, as they may have been living for thousands of years, are basically not allowed to have that. They are being invaded by us, the younger brother, the civilized people, bringing our education and technology, and
Different worldview.
and different worldview. And I was gonna say as well, because I didn't say this earlier, that one of the things that the Daniel Quinn Ishmael books, a term he uses, is the mother culture. And what Ishmael the gorilla is saying is that all the people in the world today are all kind of products of the mother culture. We all have a background in the mother culture, which teaches us that humans are superior. We are the superior form of life on this planet. It teaches us about religions and about gods that we have. It teaches us about being powerful. It teaches us about need and how we need to do various things. It teaches us about how we need education and all this stuff that we need. And like Leavers people, and I'm talking about the Jarowair, would say, well, no, we don't need any of this. We don't need the technology. We don't need your religions. We don't need your education. We've got everything we need here in the forest, and we've got sea that we can go to. We can collect like fish and shellfish and whatever in the sea. And that's fine. We don't need all this stuff you can bring us from the outside world. And it's always been the same old story, that the civilized world insists on bringing the things I've just mentioned to the rest of the world. And so,
along with it, all of their problems.
And along with it, problems, including one I forgot to mention, disease. I'm sure you're well aware of, like, civilized peoples have brought disease to indigenous peoples many times. And the indigenous peoples haven't had the immunity. And so something like the flu, which maybe like European people have built up immunity to over a long time, when it was brought to the indigenous people living in what is now North America, they didn't have that immunity. So they were dying, from flu that was brought there. And so that's part of the same old story as well. And I got like this book, because I thought of this. There he is. This is Russell Means, who was
And what's the title of that book?
an American Indian freedom fighter, activist, author. And he actually uses that term, like the same old story somewhere, because it is the same old story. It's always, the story is that the European nations or the empires go to another part of the world and they bring civilization, they bring education, they bring disease, they bring violence, they bring all the things that the people that were there don't need. They get it kind of visited on them, and they become invaded.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, I was saying earlier about like this is what's happened to the Jarowair people, and I think that, you know, the figure is something like there's only 400 of these people actually like alive now. There may be less, but I don't know. But you know, so there are many of them, and like if they could have their say, it would be if you could just leave us alone, please, in our jungle home. We were doing fine here. We don't need any of whatever you can bring us. And I think that that's been the case all over the planet. And like, yeah, I'm just thinking about, you know, other American indigenous peoples there. A lot of them are now semi-dependent upon us, the civilized people. That, you know, they use vehicles and they have to go down roads and they have to go to stores to buy stuff. They didn't used to have to need any of this. They used to be able to hunter-gatherers. They used to go out and kill animals that they could eat and collect fruit that they could eat and all this. They didn't need a store. They didn't need a car. They didn't need roads, all this stuff. So all these things have been visited on peoples, and it's like they've been assimilated. You know, I'm thinking like, you know, the sci-fi, you're talking about like, you know, starts in the Star Trek series, you have like the Borg, you know, assimilating.
Right.
You will
Now
be
the Kogi I see, if I'm not mistaken, the Kogi people, I believe they're picking and choosing some of the things that when I think they use some of the metal tools, you know, that they have. You know, they said, well, we don't want that and we don't want that, but that's pretty good. We'll take that. And it was just metal tools I think they were utilizing. I think that's who I saw. I'm not mad at them for it. It's pretty smart. I mean, if it works, it works. But yeah, they said some of the technology would take, but some of it, yeah, we don't want to mess with.
yeah, okay. Well, you know, fair enough. Point made. Yeah, the Kogi did take metal tools from us.
Hey, I mean, it's okay. I mean, they know better. They said, hey, that looks good. We'll use it.
But
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, Brian. But that brings me back to takes me back to Tenerife, because a lot of my story and how I came to be understanding of things, or how I came to be motivated about things, and part of my story is Tenerife very much. Tenerife was once inhabited by the Guanches people. They were invaded by the Spanish. The same old story. The Spanish brought, you know, religion and guns and all this, and so all that happened there. But the Guanche people, again, the hunter-gatherer people, and it was all going along fine, you know. And it's always the same. And I just lost track of my thread. Sorry. But,
I'm sorry and stuff. I would
that,
love to.
oh, no, I know what it is now.
Okay.
It's about you talking about the Kogi accepting like the metal tools from us. The Guanche people did not have any metal tools, and their whole way of living and their culture as such had evolved without metal tools because they didn't have them. And the reason they didn't have them was not because they were primitive peoples or Stone Age peoples, as they've also been described, but because they were living on a volcanic island and there were no metal ores that you could get anywhere. So they were never able to develop metal tools. And so what they had, which takes me back to what I was trying to explain in the other episode that we did, was that indigenous peoples learn what they can eat, where they live, how to shelter where they live, how to clothe themselves where they live, and how everything works, right? And again, the Guanches are the same. The Guanches learned how to live where they were on the Canary Islands. And it is always the same. And if you go to like the Arctic, you know, you had like the Inuit peoples up there. You have peoples that have learned to live in freezing conditions. Maybe we wouldn't like it at all. We thought, oh, it's too cold. Ooh.
Right.
But they are used to living in that. They have learned what animals they can hunt there, what fish they can hunt there, how to shield themselves from the cold, and that is their way of life.
And
That
somehow they also managed to prevent scurvy.
probably, yeah. Oh, actually, on that point, I'm actually thinking of, I saw a documentary years ago. I think maybe I mentioned this to you about some young guy in Siberia.
Hmm.
And the story was that this young guy from Siberia, and I can't remember the peoples he was from, but anyway, he had the opportunity of going to university in Moscow, I think it was, right? And to learn, whatever he could learn in university and how to live in a city and all this. But he dropped out of the university. He wanted to go back to living in the village, a small village, and the people that he was from, where it was like really cold, something like minus 32 was normal there, and to catch fish you had to drill through the ice, but that was the life he knew, and he chose to go back to that life. And that to me, like, that answered the question, because people say, well, are these people that are living in the Arctic conditions or something, like, why are they there? Why don't they move? Why don't they go somewhere warm? I used to ask myself this question years ago when I was young. I heard all this story about the people migrated from Siberia over to Alaska. There was a land bridge, and that was how they got there. And then they started to move down into the North America, Canada and North America. And I said, well, okay, if they could do that, why did some of them stay right up at the top in the really cold area? Didn't they think to themselves, wouldn't it be better if we go down in the warmer parts?
And what about people like familiarity? They afraid of change, perhaps. They said, well, we know here, we don't know there, so maybe they just didn't want to change for that reason, perhaps. Just throwing that out there.
Well, I think that's very valid. I think that's not only is it valid and right, I think that it actually makes a lot of sense because of what I was saying earlier about an indigenous tribal people in one part know what they can eat there, what they can hunt there, how they can clothe themselves there, how they can keep warm, or how they can keep cool if it's a hot place. Whatever they need in the area they're in, they know.
Hmm.
And so that is what is familiar to them, and they know it well. And this is what's important. So it's like, why would they want to go to somewhere that they don't know? Because they could come a cropper there, if you know what I mean. Like, they don't. If you could take like an indigenous person, say from a jungle in a tropical area, and put them in a cold area like the Arctic, and say, well, here you are, you're an indigenous person, you know how to survive, do your hunter gathering and stuff. Here you are. They're going to, well, we're far too cold here. We don't know what they're going to die, probably.
Yeah, they're clueless.
So it's a matter, there is like a matter of common sense in all this. That what is familiar to a group of people in any place is what they know, and they know what works. And what works is important as well, because if it doesn't work, then that's the end of it.
Wow.
And that's like the whole idea of like evolution of species of plants and animals, and we're animals, as I said in earlier. Like, everything evolves to be as it is, and it according to the conditions that it's in. Yeah. And so this is why, going back to the Arctic, you have creatures that live up there, like the polar bear. And it's evolved to live in the Arctic in cold conditions, and seals live up there. And so it's like all over the planet, you have like animals and plants and have evolved to live in the conditions they're in. And if they're in the conditions that they're in, that they know how to live there, they're fine. If you put them in conditions that they're not used to, they don't do so well. In fact, that could be the end of them.
Hey, Steve, you may have stumbled upon an amazing reality show. If you could take a native from one place, an indigenous person from another place, hook them up with another indigenous person from another place, and just see, could some of their skills translate? I know what you're saying, the cold, is extreme, but it'd be interesting to see, would something translate? I don't know, but I figure most of it come down knowing what to eat, what not to eat, and all of that. But it seems like some of their senses might come into play. You know what I mean? They may share some things in common. I don't know, but it'd be interesting to see.
I'll tell you what, Brian, there is one thing that came to mind immediately,
Uh-huh.
and that is the eating of edible berries.
Ooh.
And I happen to know, I mentioned a young guy from Siberia,
Mm-hmm.
amongst the family and the people that he was from,
Mm-hmm.
one of the things they could do where he lived in the cold wastelands of Siberia was that in the summer they could collect a type of berry. Okay, and I believe also like in Alaska and the Arctic parts of Canada, again, there are berries that grow up there that you can harvest.
Mm-hmm.
And the berries are important because the berries have got vitamin C. Okay, and like which is a really important vitamin. And so it's like the people there have learned, you know, an edible fruit that they can eat, which has got vitamin C, which is very good for the health and necessary.
Mm-hmm.
And if you could take one of these Arctic people, this is what you're talking about, maybe
Mm-hmm.
take them down to a tropical area, and what they'd
Wow.
have in common is the people in the tropical area would know what berries they could eat there.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm trying to say is that people all over the planet know what berries you can eat,
Mm-hmm.
and they also know what berries you can't eat.
Right.
Most
Right.
important.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, like in Europe, we have a plant called deadly nightshade. It's got black berries. It's called deadly nightshade because it can be deadly.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you were like going back in time, if you're an indigenous person living in Europe or Britain,
Mm-hmm.
and you would know that okay, we can eat blackberries, brambles. That's a blackberry that's good and tastes nice. It's healthy. You can
Mm-hmm.
eat that, but we can't eat these blackberries of this plant, the deadly nightshade, because we could die. So they learn these things, and it's the same system. And I think
Mm-hmm.
there's also like you're talking about like a meeting point, a common shared thing, is that I think people all over the planet know what berries they can eat.
Mm. And
What they
also respect for Mother Earth. It seemed like that would be one thing that they would immediately latch on to, that they both respect,
Yeah,
nature. Yeah.
very much so, and also, and that is what you just said there is very important because
Mm-hmm.
the culture that we're living in, the mother culture, the
Mm-hmm.
civilized culture, has lost respect and connection with nature. And in fact, I got like a book. Just going to show you this book,
Mm-hmm.
Children of Children of the Anthropocene by Bella Lack. I got that here on behind me because I wanted to mention that, like, she mentions a term in it about which is nature deficit disorder. Okay, so and she's talking about how a lot of people have lost their connection with nature, so they're deficient in it. It's a deficit disorder,
Mm-hmm.
and so
Wow.
you know, helping to get people connected to nature is a big help. And I said about myself, I think earlier, that like I connected to nature when I was a little boy. And I'm glad I did. Like I could say like some parts of my life, I've had parts of my life that I would rather not to have had. I've had some
Mm-hmm.
bad experiences in life. Many people do.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that I regard myself as lucky because of my connection to nature when I was young.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it is very important, you know, for people who, what I just said, like suffering from nature deficiency disorder,
Right.
learn about nature.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a big problem because like you have like young people, children today that are brought up in a city, maybe they don't have any nature, you know, maybe they have a park if they're lucky, but a lot, you know, they don't.
Steve, you're absolutely right. Matter of fact, I was going to mention that. Why do people go to parks? What is that urge? What is this need people have to go to parks? I figure it's because you need to be in nature. this concrete and sidewalks and asphalt and all of that stuff. I think in science it drives us nuts. So we go to nature to park so we can relax or something, maybe heal, something like that. But I always think about parks, the little greenery, and we flock to them. Anytime we have some time, we go flock to that. We want to be in nature. We really do. And maybe they redesign these cities with nature in mind and incorporate nature into how we build our dwellings and working place. Maybe that'll help some, alleviate that deficit.
Oh, I couldn't agree, more with you. I think that this is what we need. We need more nature in the cities we've got. Unfortunately, in many places, we're getting less. So we've got some trees and then they chop them down. So we need more trees. We need more parks. We need more gardens. We need more people. If you haven't, like, I got an apartment here. I got a balcony to my apartment, okay? I got a load of plants growing on my balcony. And so that's like, I've got some nature with me in the balcony outside. And if you've only... Maybe if you haven't even got a balcony, you could maybe have like a window box with some plants, so you can have some plants in pots.
Have some in my windowsill in the back.
What's them there? And this is, but what you're saying, and I got this, is that it's almost like something inside, a call towards having some nature. And this is so like everywhere we could go around the world, you're going to find people growing plants, indoor plants. But I'm also thinking, because I think when of my song, like I've got a song like "Where Does All the Plastic Go?" We've got like the harmful side of this is that people have manufactured plastic plants. So in some places, like I could go to the supermarket here and I could buy some plastic plants. I can buy a plastic cactus. I can buy a plastic rubber plant. I can buy some plastic, you've got some ivy, I could buy plastic ivy, right? I can go and buy plastic plants, and unfortunately, some people are buying the plastic plants rather than the real plants. But getting back to what your suggestion is that there's like an inner feeling that they need to connect with nature. They need to connect with greenery. And it's just very unfortunate that, if you like, manufacturers and people from the plastics industry and everything, so taking advantage of that to say, well, hey, we can sell you some greenery and you won't have to look after it. So you don't have to water this greenery we're supplying you with. It doesn't get insect pests on it. You can just put it on your shelf and it's going to be fine. And people will say, oh, yeah, that sounds good. And that was the whole problem with plastic, really. The whole idea for plastic to begin with was that plastic is going to be something that's going to last. And last it does. But I'm going off subject there because I'm talking.
That's all right. I love speaking with you. Oh, Steve, we're down to 10 minutes.
Are we down to 10 minutes? Right?
Yeah, time flies when I'm speaking with you, Steve.
Oh, I got something like I remember that you brought this guy up to Red Crow, Floyd Westerman. There is a video which I thoroughly recommend of him speaking. And he's called a Hopi elder. He's not a Hopi elder. He was actually a Lakota. But a lot of the cultures are shared. They understand. They have the same understandings. And I'm sure he knew that the Hopi ways. And the reason I wanted to talk about him was that the Hopi have a prophecy, and the Hopi are believed in previous worlds. They believe we're in the fourth world now, and as a new world can be created if we don't look after the world we're in. And this is like, it's like a common thread, which also goes into the Christian religion. That we have the idea that Christ is going to return and we're going to have a new heavens and a new earth. And this is like a common idea all around the globe, that we've had past worlds, that the worlds have, for whatever reason, have gone downhill, and then they're saved by like this new world that's created. And we have the idea of the flood, which is not just a biblical idea. The flood idea is pretty much worldwide. But I think and why I mention all that is because I think that it's it comes through all these teachings and all these cultures that there is a need to look after, and we've got this world, so let us look after this world, because if we look after this world, maybe we don't need any new world. We're fine here, and I'm just thinking of something like, it's a scripture from the Bible. It's coming to mind. Is that there's somewhere in the Bible Jesus says, consider the lilies of the fields, they toil not. Yeah. And what he's trying to say there is that your heavenly Father, to talk about God, the Lord God, has provided you with everything you need.
I remember that scripture. They said, what about the birds? He said, don't worry about how they eat. He said, would I do any less for my children?
That's right. Yeah, yeah. So, and this is like another common thread through all of it, if you like, that we have been provided by whatever you want to call the creator. Call the creator the great mother, call the creator God. It doesn't matter. The great spirit. The creator has given us living beings all we need for living on this planet. We have a wonderful world that we can share. We have our senses with which we can perceive it all. We have foods. We have clothing for those of us that need to clothe ourselves. For example, the people in the very cold need a lot more clothing to clothe themselves, whatever. We have all the things we need here on the planet. And I see like the problem is that there are people that are unwilling, if you like, to say, all right, you've got all the stuff you need there, and they got all the stuff they need there. But then, and if you come back to Daniel Quinn's, we have the takers people that say, well, actually, no, we want more, so we're going to come over here and take what you got. And that's been a big problem all the way through.
Seems like it always will be, though. I mean, I hope not. But you know, what I'm hearing from you is that there's hope, particularly with these worlds. Seems like there's a universe or existence of second chances. You know, they said in this world and other worlds and stuff to come. It seems like they're not like saying like there's no hope at all for humans or for people. It seems like even though we're going to go through whatever we go through, somehow we're going to be good on the other side. I mean, I'm trying to be optimistic about this thing because, you know, there's a lot of, you could look at a lot of gloom and doom about, you know, what's happening and stuff. Hey, Steve, before we leave, I know we're down to the last few minutes. Is there any like positive aspects we can glean from this? Like perhaps there can be a merger between the young brother and the older ones. You know, perhaps we can find a way to have technology and, you know, still live with nature, perhaps.
I think so. And I'm coming back to, I don't know if I quoted her earlier, but like Anna Maria, the then 13-year-old Kogi girl.
Yes.
Basically, like she said she wanted to learn law and go to university, and she wanted to learn English. So she wasn't giving up at all. She was saying, all right, I want to learn a language so I can communicate, you know, better with the younger brother. I want to learn law so I can, you know, I think she actually says to defend her peoples and know their legal rights. And so, you know, she's not doom and gloom. She's saying, yeah, I'm a young person, I'm a Kogi woman, and I want to do these things. So she's looking towards the future.
And with the people purchasing their land back, it seems like they're trying to find a way to coexist with the younger brother and stuff. It seems that way. You
Oh,
think it's possible?
they seem to think so. Yeah, like if we just take it that what they're saying is right, that they are the guardians of the planet, and it was explained to them how everything should be and what they should do. Their idea is that if they can get their land back, they can do what they're supposed to do, and this will have a knock-on effect for the rest of the planet.
Steve, you have any words of wisdom, parting thoughts for us? Got about 3 minutes.
Well,
Ishmael, Daniel Quinn.
yeah, read Ishmael by Daniel Quinn.
And don't forget to tell us about that wall behind you. It's beautiful.
The wall behind. Okay, it'll have to be another program, Brian. I
Okay.
think, because like it'll be like, you know, think globally and act locally. This is a wall from the ecology park in Quinta do Conde, a town in Portugal where I live. And as you can see, that's just a wall done by a local artist, and we have like allotments there where local people grow organic vegetables and fruit. We have a lake, we have reed beds, we can go bird watching, and we have all kinds of creatures living there on this land of the ecology park in Quinta do Conde.
Steve, real quick, where can people find you at? How can they book you? They can find your work.
They can find me very easily if you just Google Steve Andrews, the Bard of Ely. You will find me. I'm all over the place, and I'm all over the place here in Portugal. In fact, I'm in a conservation group here in Quinta do Conde. I'm in the Ecogrupo Trevo conservation group. Here at this ecology park, I've given a talk on butterflies, and yeah.
Love it. Yeah, the indigenous folks, the world, all of us and stuff. We're so fortunate to have you championing these great causes. We appreciate you so much, Steve. Let's say goodbye to everybody real quick.
Thank
Everybody,
you.
parting in
Thank you
such sweet
for
sorrow.
giving me this opportunity here, because I do, like I said, I feel motivated because I just see what's going wrong. And it takes me back to the Kogi. The Kogi saw what's going wrong. They haven't got the snow and ice on the mountain peaks. They want to speak out to us, which they did in the documentary. I've been seeing what's going wrong all my life. And I said, well, I got to do something, you know. So
yeah,
I'm
that was a
glad.
powerful video. I make sure I put those links in the description and stuff. Let's say goodbye to everybody. Parting says sweet sorrow. Come to the end of another episode. We like to thank each and every one of you for joining us. And remember to check out our previous YanBar Podcast guests. And always remember the YanBar Podcast is a place where you make it happen. Once again, Brian Barcelo here with the Bard of Ely, Steve Andrews. Thank you so much, Steve. Peace, everybody. We're out of here. Wow, we got 1 minute before it shuts us off. Steve, thanks again. I appreciate you so much. And let me hit that pause button. All right, I gotta stop it, but thank you so much, Steve. And you can always contact me through Facebook. You know that, right? And you're more than welcome to come on the pod anytime. I don't care. You come on every day if you want to. No matter to me. Peace, Steve.
Thank you. And like I said, like, contact Miriam. I'll send you her link. But this park behind me, I think I could do it. I think I could do like a whole show just talking about, you know,
That'd be great anytime. I'm curious about it. And I'm sure it's great for a lot of people. They may want to try it in their city.